What's up, everybody? It's Cam Hand, the Fantasy Man, coming at you with our Week 2 fantasy recap. I'll tell you what, it was a hectic week, to say the least. Some of you I'm not looking forward to seeing this weekend. Pretty much all of you. Lots of dabs, too many to count. I'm gonna have to push some till next week, but keep in mind I'm gonna be out of town next week. I think I'll still be able to put up a video. The next week after that, I will still be in Europe for the honeymoon. Not sure if I'll be able to post a video for that. Maybe a quick one, but we'll see. So let's just cruise through this. We got a lot to go through, and we have the survey results as well from our wedding survey that we did. This is just another reminder about the wedding and the times. Gets the wedding at 5 p.m. for those who are not in the groom's party or whatever it's called. So that'd be like Will. And then that's the address. So just screenshot it, figure it out. All right, best matchup this week was Preston versus Dylan. Really not a good matchup at all. It was just pretty much the only one that was close. Still early. Worst matchup was Ashton versus me. Just two bad teams, and it wasn't really close, and I'm upset about it. So it was a terrible matchup, just all in all. My thing's lagging a little bit, but worst injury luck. There were a lot of injuries this week. I would say, Doug had a lot. Hunter had a good amount. Greg as well. But Preston's got Pacheco going on the IR. He got a Rachaad White injury, Jefferson injury, and also a Keenan Allen injury. I would say that those were the worst. Let me see. I need to take that off. Maybe I'll have better connection. Most unlucky, we're going to go with Preston. He did have the most injuries, and he would have for sure won if Pacheco or White or Jefferson didn't get injured, and now he's 0-2. So it's just all around unlucky for him. Would have for sure won if not for the injuries, and that's about as unlucky as it gets. Man, I'm really struggling here. All right, most lucky, we're going to go with Matt. He beat Hunter, who, and this is going to be a big thing in this video, but he beat Hunter with the absurdly bad timing thing with the Evan Ingram. Hunter was playing soccer sort of when Ingram got hurt in pregame. Hunter could have avoided it. The announcement went out at 12 o'clock, and his game didn't start till 12:45. If Hunter would have checked his lineup, he would have seen that. So anyway, still super lucky that Matt had that. He also got 30 points from his kicker and defense, and he got a bad Tyreek Hill game. So all that, just super lucky for Matt. Dumbest move, we're going to go with Hunter. I'm not treating this like somebody who just didn't change the lineup and the guy was injured all week. I'm not treating it like that. That would be obviously a fireable offense. But, there really weren't any dumb moves this week other than Hunter should be checking his lineup before the 1 o'clock games. The announcement went out at 12 o'clock. I looked it up. I'll show you proof later, that Ingram would be out. I heard it. Greg heard it. Some other people, they knew it. His game didn't start till 12:45. If he would have just, checked his lineup, or if he had notifications on, he would have been able to see that Ingram was out. I have notifications on my phone that tell me whenever anybody gets ruled out, and that notification came at 12 o'clock. So he had some time to change that, and he didn't. So dumbest move. Smartest move, Matt, Neighbors trade was a fleece. Jordan Mason pickup has been great, and his defense and kicker have dominated. That's really lucky, but, whatever. There wasn't anything specifically very smart about anybody this week. I think Naylor was a good free agent pickup. Not really any good free agent pickups, but Greg kind of jumped the gun, picked up Naylor, and he should be pretty fantasy viable for the next couple weeks potentially. Stock Rising Broker, he popped off 2-0 this week. He jumped, when I do my rankings later, he jumped the most spots. So I would say his stock's rising. Stock falling is Greg. He went from the number one guy, and then he lost this week, and he's got a lot of bad injuries. So his stock is falling, no doubt about it. Best player, Broker. He had a quiet 153. It was the highest score. So that's that. Worst player was me, second lowest score. I didn't start Ridley, which wasn't dumb because Ridley is not very good, but he popped off, so it's kind of a mistake. And I can't pick a defense. I've gotten like 8 points both weeks in a row from my kicker and defense. And I lost to Ashton. So it was just a humiliating week for me this week. It killed me to do this, but who had that dog? Will, he won his matchup. He almost had a perfect game in bowling, as you can see in that photograph that I shared. But, pretty much everything other than those two things, he had no dog in this week. He was arguing with me about Hunter dabs. He was doing all sorts of things that people with no dog do. So I hated to give it to him, but hey, you almost got a perfect score, so you got to give it to him for that. And yeah. Yeah, he almost lost it with all his dabs the last 2 weeks. Here are the rankings. Won't go over too much, but Broker going from 4 to 2. Pretty good jump. Matt from 3 to 1. Greg, from 1 to 5. It's still early, guys, so big jumps up or down can happen. We're just working with points scored, my grade of your team, and also I give extra points for record, like not for record, if you are on a streak. Anyway, so Sam, Preston, me at the bottom. So I don't want to look. I feel like I have to I feel like I have to defend myself a little bit here, and that's why I put this in. I don't want to have to roast Hunter on this because I get it. Not everybody checks their lineup before the 1 o'clock games. They should. And I get it. He basically had, again, you can see, I got the notification about the player being out, Ingram, at 12 o'clock. Their game started at 12:45. He did have an opportunity to see it and change it if he would have been paying attention to his phone, or if he had good notifications and was looking at his phone, or if he just checked his lineup. It's dabs. It could have definitely been avoided. That's dabs. I can't not give somebody dabs when they play someone who's injured and it's avoidable. And it was. And again, I'm not roasting Hunter here. This is mainly for Will, because Will was arguing with me saying, oh, he was warming up at 12 o'clock. He couldn't have seen the notification because he was warming up in soccer. I've seen you guys warm up. It's not really the most intense thing in the world. Everybody's got their phone out, so that's a dumb excuse. Also, I wanted to say there's been a lot of trades being thrown out there. People have been requesting me to give dabs for trades. Definitely Will and some other people have sent me some dab-worthy trade ideas or requests. But you know what? I'm not going to give dabs for trades because that disincentivizes people to try to trade. They're like, oh, I don't want to send this trade because what if Doug thinks the trade's bad and he sends dabs to Cameron for me? No. So I won't be giving dabs for trade requests. Not happening. We need to have a lot of trades going around, lots of people throwing out ideas. Dabs will not be going out for trade requests. Okay, dabs. Hometown boys, in quotations, for not inviting Ashton to draft with them. 2 dabs. I gave Ash dabs for not drafting with the hometown boys. Come to find out, he didn't. Nobody invited Ash, so you got to give him dabs for that. By the way, Hunter was the leader for dabs before the Evan Ingram thing. Just to throw that out there, he would have won dabs without the Evan Ingram thing, so I feel good about that. Hunter for starting Evan Ingram, 4 dabs. That's not that many, guys. I get it. It was a crazy circumstance, but I have to give him some dabs. Hunter for not checking his lineup before the game, 6 dabs. You always check your lineup before the game. Will was saying, and I gave him dabs for this. He's like, wow, how often are we supposed to check our lineup? Really, you just have to check it once before the game if you really want. That's pretty much the most important time to check your lineup. Hunter for telling me all their games were at 3 o'clock when they're not. 5 dabs. Their game was at 12:45 today, and throughout multiple conversations I've had with Hunter, he's told me that every single one of their games is at 3 o'clock. And clearly that's not true, so that's dabs. Hunter for getting a yellow card in a soccer game, 4 dabs. I won't get into it, but he got a yellow card. That's dabs. Hunter for not knowing what the buy-in is for his own league. That is 9 dabs. Somehow Hunter didn't know that the buy-in was $50. I could also give Will dabs for that, but Hunter's the commissioner of the league, so that's crazy. Hunter for saying I was Oh, I kind of meant to take this out. Do I have all the... Because I already... Whatever, I'll say it, because I already hit him with dabs for this the other day, or last week, because he said I was threatening the integrity of the league by having Neighbors on my team. He was like, after I drafted Neighbors, he was so upset. He was like, dude, that's such a bad pick. You're threatening the integrity of the league. Anyway, I gave him dabs last week, but whatever. This is an interesting one. Both Saradays for responding yes when I asked them for Matt's number. 10 dabs each. As you can see in those photos, I text Bobby. I said, hey, can I have Matt's number? He responds, yeah. And I'm like, can you send it to me? And then he says, of course, bro. And then eventually he sends it. I then ask Hunter, because Bobby wasn't sending it, can I have Matt's number? He just responds, yes, sir, and never sends it to me. That is crazy, dabs. I should be saying, can I have Matt's number? And they should just send me his number. They shouldn't say, yeah. And it's crazy. Will for defending Hunter on the Ingram dabs. We already been over this, but he was being like, dude, he couldn't have done anything. It was 12:45. We were playing a game. It's like, okay, yes, but you got to check your lineup before the game start. And also, the announcement came at 12 o'clock. Should have seen it. Will apparently doesn't check his lineup before the games, 6 dabs. Will for, I explained this, for saying, how often do we have to check our lineups? 5 dabs. He was saying that to kind of roast me, be like, oh, that's ridiculous. You think we have to check our lineups all the time? Like, no, you really just have to check it every once in a while and once before the games start to make sure your guys are playing. Will for constantly questioning my dabs, 10 dabs. Will is on a rampage with questioning my dabs. I'm the inventor of dabs. I'm the dab guy. I know what dabs are. Will said if I gave Hunter dabs for starting an injured player, that it would, it would make dabs irrelevant or whatever. He's always saying, hey, if you give this person dabs, then dabs mean nothing because that wasn't dab-worthy. Dabs. Will for thinking because they warm up before their game, Hunter can't check his lineup, 5 dabs. Again, their warming up is pretty much jogging, not even, pretty much just talking and maybe taking a few shots out, talking fantasy, It's not a real warm up. Will for trying to roast me in Dynasty by showing me that Dante Foreman was released by the Browns, 2 dabs. Will, before the season started, I have Dante Foreman, who's the worst player on my team, in Dynasty, and he sent me a screenshot. He was like, oh, boom, look at this, Dante Foreman dropped by the Browns. And I was texting him back, I was like, yeah, I really don't care about Dante Foreman. 2 dabs, but you know what, Dante Foreman, he's actually a hot waiver pickup this week, and he's on my team, so hey, that's Will dabs. Bobby for dropping Schultz when he didn't have to. So Bobby dropped Schultz while he had an extra... He didn't need to. He had an extra spot on his roster. He drops Schultz when he doesn't need to. Then his tight end gets injured, or his tight end's been injured the whole time. His tight end was injured when he dropped Schultz, and then he has to then pick Schultz back up, and then he drops him again. Anyway, it was dabs. Doug for sending a random stray my way, even though I didn't even roast him on my fantasy one in Dynasty. 3 dabs. I had beat Doug in Dynasty, which I don't care about. I do not care about Dynasty. And I didn't say anything to Doug, and he just texted me after I beat him in Dynasty. He's like, hey, just so you know, even though you beat me in Dynasty, your team still sucks, and I have Jameson Williams, and you have Tyler Boyd, so ha. And I'm like, okay, but that was completely uncalled for. I called Doug last night, and this is the next dabs, and I was wanted to talk to him about a potential trade that was going down, and he just instantly is like, dude, your team is terrible, nobody should even touch your team, your team is the worst I've ever seen in my life. He just instantly profanity being used, just completely obliterating me for no reason whatsoever. And then after saying my team is terrible and nobody should try to trade with me, he then instantly texts me and say, hey, let me trade you Puka. And then I say, well, who do you want? And he names like literally every player on my team. He's like, I want this guy, this guy, this guy. He like basically was like, I love your team. I want every player you have, but your team is terrible and nobody should. It's just eight dabs. Doug, just continued toxicity. This is from a while back when we were trying to decide punishment. Dylan and Bobby recommended a punishment after the chat, or after I already posted the poll in the chat. So I was like, all right, guys, here's the poll, of the options for a punishment. After I had already posted the poll and time was already up, they started suggesting punishments, which is the most Bobby and Dylan thing I've ever heard. Dylan for being at Forsyth Central High School, probably to pick up chicks. 4 dabs. Preston is consistently referring to Asheville over text as AVL. 3 dabs. He'll text me and be like, oh yeah, sorry, we're going to AVL this weekend. And I'm like, what the heck is AVL? And then he's like, oh, it's Asheville. And I was, anyway, it's dabs. Like, I don't know. First of all, no one knows what AVL is. And second of all, you should just text Asheville. That's dabs. Preston for not knowing why it's referred to as a redraft league. And then when I explained to him why it's called a redraft league, he said it was stupid that they call it that. 3 dabs. It makes complete sense why they call it a redraft league. Preston, he's not coming to the rehearsal dinner. 7 dabs. Preston for constantly and consistently getting Greg and Doug mixed up in fantasy. Whenever I talk to him about fantasy, he's constantly getting Greg and Doug's teams mixed up. Preston got his sandwich stolen by a homeless woman a week or 2 ago. 3 dabs. She just walked up and took his sandwich. Greg for not playing soccer in the best season there is. 15 dabs. We've all been waiting for it. It's crazy. Greg decides to take off his first soccer season in literally the best season. He's like, oh, I could take off when it's super hot or when it's super cold, or I could take off when it's like perfect outside and everybody goes to summits and has a ton of fun talking fantasy football. He's like, I want to take that season off. That's crazy dabs for Greg. Greg, even though he's not playing soccer, he's still going to the games. 5 dabs. What? I mean, he didn't last week, but the first week he still went to the soccer games, even though he's not playing. That doesn't make any sense. If you're not going to go to the games, then stay home and watch. Or if you're not going to play, then stay home and watch football. You're basically getting all the negatives of going to the game and missing football, but not getting any of the positives of like playing soccer. So, lastly, Greg, I was talking trades with Greg, and he said, I was talking to him about Diggs, and he was like, oh, no, I don't like Diggs. This was after week 1. Diggs scored 2 touchdowns on like 3 catches. He was like, oh, I don't like Diggs because he just got 2 touchdowns and had terrible volume. Like, that's not really sustainable. I mean, that's hilarious because last week Xavier Worthy did pretty much the same thing that Diggs did, and Greg was so high on it. And yeah, so it's funny. Basically, it's like, oh, Diggs got 2 touchdowns on bad volume. Don't really care for that. Xavier Worthy, 2 touchdowns, bad volume. That's the best performance Greg's ever seen. So anyway, most annoying was Doug. I wanted to go with Ashton because Ashton was just annoying me with his talking in the Dynasty League and stuff. But I'm going to go with Doug. It's just another year of crazy toxicity. Again, I just called him to talk about something and just instantly lays into me. I also called him during the soccer game. And it was a FaceTime. He looked like he wanted to kill me. And then he said something and then he hung up. And I was like, wow, Doug is in a rough spot right now. Next week's best matchup is the Giles Throwdown. I mean, I predict Greg will win. Classic Giles matchup. Not much more to be said there. Skip that. All right, we're going to go to the wedding survey results. I'm going to try to fly through these. For those of you who don't know, I sent out a poll a survey for everybody to vote on different topics. And the poll has spoken. 7 votes for Bobby to be most drunk at the wedding. Not surprising. We got a Bob Sr. vote as well. Also a Mike Snow, Riley Snow's dad. For some reason, he's in there. Least drunk, Preston with 5 votes. Riley, Connor, and then some moms getting some votes. I should have given Preston dabs for this, but he said that he just randomly selected people for some categories, and maybe that's why Hunter's on there for least drunk. Maybe just randomly selected Hunter. Best dancer, no surprise here, in my opinion, it's Tyler Hood, the Tyler Hood. Got Dylan receiving 2 votes, Caitlin, Cindy, you see all the rest. I don't know who put Emery. That seems like a troll. Rue also, I mean, Rue can get down a little bit, but worst dancer, Doug. I don't know why anyone would put Andrew. I mean, there's some just complete troll votes here, people. But yeah, worst dancer is Doug. He wins with 4 votes. I think Bob Sr. has a good... No, he can probably throw down. Most likely to miss the wedding is Hunter with 4 votes. Andrew 2, Dylan 2. I think the people got it right there. Maybe Andrew. Best speech between Riley or Logan. It was 8-5. Riley wins. Logan's salty about that. He called you all hater. He said you guys are just haters. But he's very upset because everyone roasts him in these. Who would give the best speech? Cameron, number 4. And then Preston, number 2. I know Preston voted for himself on this one. Don't know who the other person who voted for him was. Connor, I mean, he'd give a good speech. But I would give the best. Worst speech, a tie between Greg and Rue. 2 people voted me for the worst speech, which is crazy. And Tyler would give a great speech. Weekend MVP, weirdly, is Andrew. People are thinking a big bounce back for Andrew. Coming off a DUI, bounces back with a weekend MVP or a wedding weekend MVP. We'll see. But LVP as well, Andrew, 4 votes. So that, lots people are high and low on Andrew. Most likely to cry, Riley. I would have voted Hunter, who came in second. Hunter or Will are good options for most likely to cry. Andrew, most likely to dance with somebody. 4 votes. Hold on, let's see this video. Dylan, Hunter, I don't know who picked Doug. That seemed like a troll. Least likely to dance with somebody, Doug, 4 votes. Riley, I mean, you see the options there. Least wanted to walk down the aisle with Andrew. Man, Andrew's gotten a lot in this video. 9 votes for Andrew. Nobody wants to walk down the aisle with Andrew. Kind of PO'd. Somebody picked me. Who's going to win the league? We got 3 votes for both Matt and Greg. 2 votes for me. I have to shout out to Caitlin. She voted for me on that one. So that's how I got 2. And the rest, I'm assuming everybody just voted for themselves. Who's going to lose the league? We got 6 votes for Ashton. That is a video of Ashton dunking. That is very poor quality. Who do you not want to win the league? No surprise here. Haters going to hate. Cam Han, the fantasy man. Nobody wants me to win the league with 5 votes. Ashton and Will come in second. Who do you want to win the league? Greg and Cameron. I'm pretty sure I voted for myself here, and then Caitlin, I'm sure, voted for me. Not sure who else voted for me, but Greg always has a high approval rating, so that is not a surprise there. Thank you for watching, everybody. That was, I'm sure, a long video. We'll see how long it was after I get done. But yeah, I can't wait to see some of you on the weekend, and let me know if you have any questions, and let's ride and have a good